please welcome Dennis Woodside. Hey.
Thanks, Amir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay. So I'm going to give people a very, very brief overview of your background. And I think it's important, probably not a lot of people appreciate that you clerked on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which for anyone who's in the legal profession, it's a really, really big deal and very hard to get. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, wasn't that relevant for what I'm doing now? But
You never know. You never know. So then you were at Munger Tolles and then McKinsey before spending more than 10 years at Google, rising very, very high up in the sales organization, right? And then you led Motorola Mobility after Google acquired it, which I can attest did produce some excellent phones in
Moto
his
X.
time there.
Yeah,
and the G and the E. And then you quickly joined Dropbox as soon as Google sold that company to Lenovo. Given that you used to lead hardware or design hardware inside of Google, I have to ask you, have you ordered a Pixel, and what do you think about the strategy?
Well, I actually have one that was sent to me.
Okay.
But I'm currently using a OnePlus 3.
Okay.
Which was I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
OnePlus,
of course.
but this was actually
Oppo
a recommendation of my son, who's kind of a tech geek. He's here.
Okay.
So.
Cool. But you like the strategy, the Pixel strategy?
It's a great phone. I mean, it literally just got the phone, so we'll have to see. But it looks like a great phone.
Okay. So we'll get back to Google in a moment. But I'm really curious what you've learned about management at Dropbox that maybe you didn't learn at Google and Motorola, other than maybe it's better to have advertising and SaaS margins than hardware margins.
Well, so I joined Dropbox about 2.5 years ago. And what attracted me to the company was here you had a product that had incredible adoption. So I think we had a couple 100 million registered users then. We have 500 million registered users now. And really, Dropbox is solving a universal problem. We believe that all files eventually will move to the cloud. Collaboration and collaboration software will be cloud-based. There'll be a huge opportunity to build tools that are all about collaborating around files. And anybody who's doing serious work, whether you're building a building or organizing this kind of an event, you're going to need to collaborate around large files, large content. So that's a huge opportunity for us. And that combined with a leadership team in Drew and Arash that's deeply technical, that had already built a software development team that's among the best in the Valley, continues to attract incredible product talent. I just thought that that's a huge opportunity and would be exciting.
So what's the number one thing you've learned there that you did not learn previously?
Well, I
as
think
a manager.
Yeah, I think Dropbox is a very collaborative environment. So we're, at Motorola we had 20,000 people, and in that kind of an environment, it tends to be more hierarchical, top down. I think Drew and Arash have built a very much more collaborative environment where marketing and sales, engineering all participate in major decisions for the company. So that's very different.
And maybe it was similar with Nikesh at Google, kind of very top down.
Well, we had to scale a sales organization that I think probably today has 20,000 people. So it's a very different environment.
So you've learned to work well with others. That's the point.
I think I had that before,
okay.
But certainly being collaborative in a dynamic environment is different.
So how do you divide up the role with Drew? What's your typical day like with him?
So Drew is very focused on the long term. So he spends a lot of time thinking about product. Where's the product going? Spends a lot of time thinking about how do I build the team. He probably spends 1/3 to 40% of his time recruiting our senior leadership team. My job is to scale the business. And when I joined, I think we had about 600 people. We have about 1,600 now. We're in 13 countries. Half our revenue's from outside the U.S. My job is to build that revenue over time.
What's the second biggest market?
UK.
UK, okay.
Yeah. So really, that's how we divide kind of responsibility among us.
Okay. So I want to set up the rest of this talk sort of with the backdrop of what Dropbox's business looks like. So for those of us who haven't gotten the whiteboard version, just like in a nutshell, lay out the pyramid, the Dropbox pyramid for everyone.
So we have 3 paid products. Pro, which is $99 a year. So millions of Pro subscribers. If you think about a professional, real estate developer, attorney, that's the target market for Pro. Dropbox Business, which is a self-serve product. We have 200,000 paying teams on Dropbox Business, about half of the Fortune 500 today. And the great thing about that business is people use Dropbox, they use the basic product, they've brought us into work. They find a use case at work where their IT department's not providing a tool that's solving a problem. They need to share a large file, they need to collaborate around a large file. They just go to our website and buy the business version. The IT department gets all the admin controls that they need, but that is a business that requires very little in the way of sales and marketing, so our costs are very low. And then over the last 2 years, we've built Dropbox Enterprise, which is focused on bigger customers. So Adidas is a customer, 20,000 seats, Expedia, 10,000 seats. And in every case, there are already many Pro and Dropbox Business deployments in those organizations. And the employees were pretty much advocating for bringing in Dropbox because they saw broader needs. And eventually, we get embedded into workflows. So Macmillan Publishing publishes their books. They've built a custom tool on top of Dropbox to do all their book publishing workflow in Dropbox. The Wall Street Journal's ad flow is all managed through Dropbox. So we're moving from very much we've pivoted really from a consumer-only driven company to one that's focused on both consumer and business opportunity.
So what percentage of your revenue is self-serve versus kind of enterprise?
The vast majority, 90% today is through that self-serve model.
Okay.
We have built a sales team, but I would describe it more as the Navy SEALs. So we send them in when we already see opportunity.
Okay, with the data that you have.
Because we see usage. So we'll, in Expedia's case, we saw thousands of users of Dropbox that were registered from the Expedia domain. So we understand what kinds of files they're using, who they're sharing with, and that insight and that information can be very helpful to the CIO in understanding how work is getting done in their organization.
Okay, so by your own telling, the foundation of Dropbox so rests on kind of a large set of individuals who are learning about and getting excited about Dropbox on their own, kind of entering that funnel, becoming prosumers or whatever you want to call it, and then kind of bringing that into their companies. And that seems like a blessing and a curse at the same time. The curse side being sort of how do you, if you've pivoted, if you're more kind of an enterprise software company, how do you keep those individual consumers excited and maintain that kind of consumer brand with them?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves on focusing on the end user. Typical business software, the designers, the engineers, they thought about the IT department. So we believe that the end user got us to where we are, that's where we need to focus. So we have to keep that relentless focus on the user experience. How is the user using our product? How can we enhance the product? What new applications can we build that solve problems that we're hearing from our users? So an example there is a product in beta called Paper, which is a collaborative text editing product that we've already had 1 million documents made on Paper. We haven't really even tried to grow it or integrate it with Dropbox yet. So,
but you consider it a big success for what it is?
So far, for where we thought we would be today, it's doing quite well. So that focus on the user we think is incredibly important, and we think that's the way software is going to be built in the future for businesses. Every employee has 1 million applications in their pocket, and the old world where the CIO sort of told everybody, here's what you're going to use, that's not going to work anymore.
Okay. So you do have a channel strategy, though, right? And you have partners like SoftBank and Ingram Micro who sell your service. And I know you brought on Tom Hansen, who's like rock star from Microsoft to help with that. But it sort of how do you really convince those partners to prioritize Dropbox, given they have so much stuff that they can sell?
Well, what every partner loves about Dropbox is it potentially is a product they can sell to every customer they have. If you think about Salesforce, Salesforce is a great product for the sales team. Workday is a great product for the HR department. But Dropbox is a great product for pretty much every department in every company. And so we've spun up a set of partners around distribution. So HP, Dell, Asus all distribute our free app, but also Ingram Micro through their reseller network. Thousands of resellers are reselling Dropbox to their customers. A set of technology partners like Microsoft, Adobe, but also thousands of other smaller developers that have integrated Dropbox into their platforms to make a better user experience for both their customers and ours. And then a set of security partners, so Symantec, Okta, and there what we're trying to do is we want Dropbox to be able to be plopped down into any security environment and it to just be plug and play for the IT department. So all those integrations are already pre-built.
And interesting, it's 10% of the business is the channel side?
No, today, well, in terms of outbound and channel, it's our fastest growing, but yes, today our smallest business, and that's both outbound and channel.
Okay. So when did you start working with analysts like IDC? Because I know that there was a lot of resistance from Drew on that for a long time, and now he actually sits down with them. When exactly did that change, and why, and has it made a difference?
I think we started working with Gartner and IDC about 2.5 years ago, and we saw the opportunity to move into larger and larger enterprises, but frankly, we needed to learn what did we need to build in order to be competitive.
So this is right when you got there?
It was already started before I got there.
Okay.
A fellow named Ross Piper had come in from Salesforce and had started that dialogue. But we needed to know what to build, and we needed to learn more. So they were helpful in defining some of the security features that we needed to build in order to be competitive.
Okay, so it's helped to be in the sort of magic quadrants. You've seen that impact.
Yeah, so IT departments rely on those reports for making decisions. It's very helpful to be there.
Okay. So those of us who were early Dropbox users, and I'm guessing at least 75% of this room has an account, but we all kind of remember a time before Google Drive and Microsoft's OneDrive and all that stuff. And now that they've been out there for a while, it would sort of be hard to argue that they have had no negative impact on Dropbox. But what's your take on what's been the result of those rival services?
Well, look, the market is very competitive, and the reason is it is a big opportunity. I mean, it literally is every business, every person on the planet, we believe, is going to need a service like Dropbox. So I think the question, we win when content is really important to the business and really important to the user. So if you're a media company and your core asset, your IP, really is a file, right? You're going to go with the best-in-class provider, the one that has the fastest sync, most reliable sync, works on the most platforms. The other competitors, the ecosystem competitors, they're very much interested in lock-in. And we've heard from many CIOs that another reason to go with Dropbox is to not get locked into one of those platforms. You also have to remember, in the past, the world was very much dominated by one platform called Windows, and there was no choice. And now there are multiple platforms. Those platforms actually do evolve and change. Android is a newish platform. You need to interoperate across all of those, and we do that really well. None of the ecosystem players have any incentive to interoperate in the way that we do. And you see that. You see companies that are primarily Google apps, but their customers are a mix of Windows and other services, and they have to figure out a way to collaborate with their customers. Dropbox is the way they do it.
This is why you use that Switzerland analogy whenever you can.
Yes, that's right. So if we interoperate with everybody better, then Apple's not going to interoperate with Microsoft in the same way that we will interoperate with both.
Okay. So we know that your revenue is much bigger than Box's, and you're probably going to hit like $800 million in revenue this year, something like that, right? Is that fair?
But my CFO has sworn me to secrecy. So,
okay, all
sorry.
right. Well, nobody's going to tell him. Don't worry. So that would be awesome. Maybe that's like twice as much as Box, except you have a lot more automated sales, I would guess. You said this summer that you were cash flow positive. which got people to take note, though you aren't profitable yet, right? What might be the timetable to profitability?
So we've been cash flow positive all year, and the part of that's the subscription-based nature of the business, where all of our most of our pro users pay us up front. Our Dropbox business users on an annual subscription will pay us up front as well. And we have a very clear path to operating profit, eventually net income.
Over the next
period of time. But what's really important for us is we're going to continue to invest in the product. There are a lot of things that, a lot of ideas that Drew has and a lot of products that we'll be rolling out in the next year or so that enhance the core Dropbox experience. It's not a completely solved problem yet, but also moving.
Such as, what would be an example?
Well, I mean,
of what's coming next.
Making sharing easier. Drew talks about this a lot. Sharing is easy in Dropbox, but there are a lot of ways that we can reduce friction. The more we can reduce friction around sharing large files, the more people are going to use Dropbox. We're interested in moving Dropbox more to the fore. A lot of people use Dropbox as a utility, so a product like Paper is very much an everyday, multi-hour use case for Dropbox. So Paper is going to be a real cornerstone of our strategy going forward for sure. So we're focused on that. The business is doing well and continues to scale. We're growing faster than companies like Workday and Salesforce, which we view as companies that are a couple of years ahead of us, but that we look to as models.
So can I ask you on that? There's this, like, it may seem arbitrary, but there's this like rule of 40% that's very popular in SaaS, where it's like, your profit percentage plus your growth rate needs to equal at least 40%.
You're not going to make me do that math because
I'm sure, why not? But I mean, by profit, sometimes it might be free cash flow, sometimes it might be EBITDA. It kind of depends on the business. But so if you're not going to tell me whether Dropbox meets the 40% rule, and I would love to know if you do. Do you?
I'm not familiar with the 40% rule. So
really? Okay.
I'm not. No.
Really? Okay. Because my next question was related to that, and whether the public market can be forgiving of companies that are not meeting the 40% rule. But we'll get to the public markets now, which in another way, you're definitely, you seem to be kind of tightening operationally. You've done a lot, and it seems like you're going to have the option to go public next year. How do you think about the public market right now? What do you like, not like? What else do you need to do to get ready?
So it's been interesting over the last, let's say, 18 months. 18 months ago, the story was all about grow, grow, grow. There was not much discussion about basic economics, cash flow, costs. And we were sitting back at Dropbox kind of like, we have a great business. Should we be spending the way some of these other companies are? Are we being too conservative? And we actually had those debates. Maybe we should be more aggressive and build a huge sales force and so forth. And we decided to kind of play it straight and try to drive towards a business with the right kind of economics that we like, that's self-sustaining. For us, getting to cash flow positive over the last, let's say, 12 months prior to this year was really important because it meant that the business is self-sustaining. You don't need to go back to the capital markets if you don't want to. So we're in that fortunate position. We're going to continue to build the economics of the business, build our customer base, build our product set, and at some point in time, if it makes sense to go public, we'll do that.
And next year is a possibility or is not a possibility?
Well, look, we don't have a timeline, and I can't say anything on that.
Okay. Well, hopefully you do have a timeline, right? Okay. So what's the story that you're going to tell? We just had this LinkedIn example where maybe the market didn't quite know what to think about them. Are they a social media company? Or are they a recruiting software tool? And kind of became more the latter. Do you think it's clear what Dropbox is? Do you think the market is going to understand it?
Well, I think we absolutely will be spending more time talking not to the investor community, but to the business community about what we've built and where we're going. Mostly because, most people learned of Dropbox through word of mouth, which is a great thing. And most businesses and individuals who've moved to our paid products, it's been because they bumped into a problem, they saw that we had an offering that satisfied some need that they had, and they love the product. Now, as we move into business that is more sold, where we have a sales team and we're going to an Adidas or we're going to a News Corp, we're going to need to tell our story in a more public way and be more aggressive about talking about what we've built and where we're going.
And
so,
what are the companies?
But that's not because of any investor need.
Okay, but what companies are you going to model yourself after in terms of how you talk about yourself?
I think that's a good question. I mean, I think we do think a lot and look to, and we have a number of people from Salesforce, because Salesforce, if you study the business model, they started very much in small and medium-sized businesses, and over time have grown into a $50 billion company by moving up market.
So we just saw the hacked list of public companies that Salesforce sort of could consider acquiring. Do you think you're on the list of private companies that Salesforce would consider?
You'd have to ask Mark.
Okay.
I don't know.
So I'm guessing that the valuation that Dropbox got, kind of back to that point of what you are, I'm guessing that the valuation that Dropbox got in 2014 was definitely revolved partially around kind of the consumer possibilities and the sort of $10 billion valuation, which if you're a true enterprise software company, doesn't really make sense. Although as an enterprise software company, you would be considered massive and awesome. If you were to go back and do it over again, would you have done that fundraising differently?
Well, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But look, to your point, I don't think we view ourselves as and I think software companies in the future won't necessarily be confined to enterprise only or consumer only. We got to where we are because the consumer used our product, they brought us into work, and it doesn't matter if you're small or a large business, that entire opportunity is open to us. So I think that's very different. Now, how does the market value that? I guess we'll see at some point in time. But you have businesses that, like Microsoft, that never thought of themselves as we're just serving the enterprise. They're serving a universal need, which at the time was computing, and that spanned from the smallest individual to the biggest company. So that's the opportunity that we see ahead of us.
Okay, and what's a better ticker symbol, Drop or D-Box?
You know what? We'll consult with you when we get there. How's that?
Okay. All right. Do we have Amy? No. I'm sorry. No questions. Thank you very, very, very much for the time. Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah.
Sure.